It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show!
Hey everybody, it's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name is Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey gang.
Les Webster.
Hello all.
And making her return, Liz Newman. Yay!
Yay.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Hope everybody out there is doing okay. So, what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy?
Great.
Hey, that's my line.
Yeah, I know. I just stole it. Let's see. This week has been a little crazy. But I did get a little bit of reading done. I started reading an omnibus that my local comic shop was kind enough to hunt down for me, since it's, I believe, out of print. It is an omnibus for Criminal Macabre. And this title, if you're not familiar, it was created by Steve Niles and Ben Templesmith back in the 90s. And Cal McDonald is a supernatural investigator, and generally not a particularly nice guy, but there's lots of fun supernatural horror action, and Cal is just obnoxious and a hoot. So this is some really fun stuff.
Very cool.
Good choice.
Nice of the comic shop people to be able to find it for you.
Wasn't it? I thought it was very nice of them.
You're all right sometimes.
Yeah, they keep Liz in pops, so it's all good.
Mm-hmm.
I've cut down on a lot of those.
Cut down. Now she only needs 2 trips home from the shop with the pops.
Mm-hmm. Now it's in the hundreds.
Plain brown package.
Now our reflection's in the hundreds, not in the thousands.
Yeah,
there you
cut
go.
down. It was funny because my son's birthday one year, we went and saw Krampus when it came out, and a memory popped up where it said, one of the scariest parts of the movie, and they pan into Krampus's face, and the first thing I think is not, oh shit, it was, I wonder if they're going to make a pop out of that. And I had to laugh because I've got 2 of them in my collection now. So it's like, yes, they did, and you have that T-shirt. Yeah, I've cut back.
A little.
Till something else cute comes along. Well, I spent a week walking around like a penguin with ghetto booty, so I don't have a whole lot to report. Sorry.
Wait. Back up. A penguin with ghetto booty. Is that what I heard?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the only way I can describe it.
Just want to make sure I can get that in the show notes, that's all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the best way I can describe what it was. Or maybe the hunchback.
She didn't share the drugs that did that to her either, so I just want to say I'm very disappointed.
I was hoarding. Yeah. At some point it was like, something's got to give. It's like, yeah, it did. It was your back.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Very much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Your pain threshold is what gave.
Yeah. Yeah, getting older sucks, so I advise you against it.
Wait. Let's be careful how we phrase that, shall we?
Yes, because the alternative is not better. It
Yeah,
really
that's
isn't.
And I'm not condoning death, so yeah. Stay young at heart. There we go. Young at heart.
Young at heart.
Read your comics. Buy your pops. Stay young at heart.
Yeah. Young at heart and high on muscle relaxers.
There you go.
Well, follow that up, Les.
I'm
Night,
at a
everybody.
loss. This weekend, I had a couple of things. I went to one of the theaters here. They had a special showing called A December to Dismember. And it was a triple feature of horror movies.
Woohoo!
All were based around the Christmas holiday.
Was Die Hard involved?
No, that's going to be on Christmas Eve.
Okay.
Yes, I already have tickets. Also, each of the movies was a foreign movie,
Oh boy.
but only one of them I had to read. The other two were in English where I could follow it.
Cool.
And they also had shorts. They would show a short and then the movie. Then the three guys would come out and talk before the next set of short movie started. I was there for around 6 hours,
Wow.
and it was hysterical. It was so much fun to sit there and watch these. I was looking online before the show. They had a short called Rare Exports Incorporated. And I found this on, I want to say Vimeo, Vimeo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a thing.
And I was watching the short and I still started laughing. It was about hunters in Lapland that went out before the first snow and were trapping. What they were trapping was Father Christmases. They would capture them, they would train them, and they would send them to various countries to be Santa Clauses at malls.
Wow.
When they were captured, they were feral, so they would have the Father Christmas sit in his chair and hand him a stuffed child, and of course the Father Christmas first thing would start to try to eat it. So the progression was there, and you got to see a little bit of how they were training. So just watching that one, I said, I'm in for a great evening, and it was. It was so much fun.
That is amazing.
That is cool.
And then the other day, I received something in the mail that I had forgotten all about. I received my DVD of Guns of the Apocalypse, a new Christopher Mihm movie.
Ooh.
Because I had contributed to the making of the DVD. I was not a member of the Kickstarter, but I did contribute to the DVD, and I have a certificate and a copy of my film and all that stuff. So I was happy.
Sweet.
Very nice.
Speaking of movies and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I guess everybody knows, unless you're living under a rock, that the Avengers trailer busted out. And it starts off, of course, with Tony dying and saying that he's dying. And so everybody started tweeting NASA, like, help him, help him. How cool was it that NASA responded? I
Yep.
mean, that was amazing. It was like, that's so cool of you guys. So hopefully, Marvel, if you're listening, pay attention to NASA and we can save Tony.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of surprised that it's April, that the movie's coming out. Isn't that kind of early?
Well, originally it was going to be Free Comic Book Day weekend, the 1st of May, but they moved it up because they did that this year with Infinity War.
That's cool.
So they may be doing the same thing of it being a worldwide release in April. I wouldn't be surprised,
That's cool.
since this is actually the ending of the third wave, and maybe an ending for some of the actors. They may be walking away from this.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Chris Evans tweeted that, hey, it's been an honor and all that kind of stuff, but within the last week or so, one of the Russo brothers was commented saying, yeah, maybe not so fast there, Chris.
They may not be done.
They may not be done. Well, especially since they would really love to do a Secret Wars film. And I guess it's going to depend on which version of Secret Wars they want to do.
Yeah.
Or it could be a combination of the two. Who knows?
I think they've been so successful on this run.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of hate to see it end. You know, that's just me, though. And that's someone who doesn't like Marvel. Well, not like that. I shouldn't say that.
You don't read
Marvel
Marvel.
when I say that. There you go.
You don't read Marvel. But you do see the films.
Yep, I do watch the films. And the films have been really good.
The films have been really good.
It's like, you know how we do our casting. I don't think I could cast it better than they did. And I don't know if that's the person or the person who came into the role and made it theirs, you know?
You know, it's always interesting because it's because, you know, you hear some of these casting choices and then of course the immediate response is, oh my God, why did they do this?
Yeah.
And I've been guilty of that too. You know, I didn't think Chris Evans could pull off Cap, but he did such a great job. So, you know, I try when they cast people, I try not to be so overly critical. I'm going, okay, well, they see something, and hopefully they're right. And
Yeah. DC's been so wrong here lately. I won't jump on that train, but I will never, ever acknowledge that Jared Leto played the Joker. Never. He's gone.
well, we got another Joker coming, so hang in there.
Yeah. I think they realized what they did.
Well, I don't know, because there's a theory out there that I don't know. It's just the whole thing's kind of crazy.
Yeah. I think with that version, though, they lost the classy and went for trashy. You know, I mean, he's a serial killer who wears a 5-piece suit. You know, he's not going to cap his teeth and get tattoos, and you know, he's a little classier than that.
I don't know. Was it a little overboard? Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see him being a little bit more hip than we're used to seeing him, though.
Yeah.
But it was a little overboard. But then again, the Joker is overboard, so you know.
True.
But that's a discussion for a future podcast.
Yeah.
So we'll wait for that. How's that?
There we go. Let's put a pin in that one.
Let's talk now.
Because we have something else to talk about.
Ah, there
Which we
is
can
that.
actually
yes.
bring back into this
Something,
topic.
yeah, something not entirely unrelated, but yeah.
Yes.
I jumped the gun.
You talk about movies. I had actually been catching some of the stuff that's been streaming on Twitch from either between Shout Factory streaming Mystery Science Theater 3000 or Rift Tracks. And oh God, I have seen Birdemic, and I wish I had not. I also saw them do the live show where it was the 10-year anniversary of Mystery Science Theater 3000. And that was fun to see because I had not seen that. And they got everybody back, and then they brought in Josh because he had just been cast to start up the new show. And they did a series of shorts. And it was so funny because the one where Mary Jo Pehl and Bridget Nielsen did was Word to the Wives. And it was a 50s little short regarding a new stylized kitchen. But it also starred Darren McGavin.
Interesting.
And it was just, it was kind of funny to watch. Because I mean, he was kind of, it was a little comedic, because he was, but it was just, but it was fun actually watching some of those. But with Mystery Science Theater, the ones they had played were ones that were acting. It's funny because they played a lot of the ones that were the ones that first got me watching, including Cave Dwellers, which was actually an Ator film starring Maisel Keefe, Fugitive Alien 2, which was a Japanese sci-fi. I think it was probably a TV series that had been just edited together as films, because that's the way it looked like, because it didn't make any sense, where everybody was called Ken. And then just some of these other ones that were like really, they were the ones that, so it was a nice little nostalgic trip, seeing some of the ones that were from yesterday, so long ago that they're probably not in the rotation, but I just happened to catch it, and it was great. I also picked up another Epic Collection. Yes, this is one of my obsessions. Epic Collections from Marvel, and this was
It's your pops.
Hey,
yeah.
at least pops are $10, right?
This was the Avengers one, entitled "Behold the Vision." So this was the introduction of Vision and him being added to the team. It collects issues 57 through 76, and then Marvel Superheroes issue number 17. And a lot of this stuff I had not read before, so it was nice to kind of read those. And I remembered in our discussion about the Kree Skrull War, and I don't remember who it was that brought it up, going, I don't know why Clint was no longer a Hawkeye, he is now Goliath. The story is in this collection of what happened. So basically what happened is they were returning from a mission, and there was problems with the Quinjet. He tried to pull out a trick arrow to help them slow down and all that, and the string on the boat broke. So all of a sudden he feels like a fifth wheel. So there's confidence issues there. And just so happens that Hank and Janet come back from their honeymoon, and Hank is adopting the Yellow Jacket persona. So Goliath, there's no Goliath, and she actually just created a new costume, so it's just sitting there waiting for someone to wear it. and then a version of the formula that helped him grow, which he couldn't take anymore because it affected him psychologically. So Clint goes, "Oh, okay, well, I'll just be the new Goliath. That's it." It's as simple as that. So now you know the story.
And now, and knowing is half the battle.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty. Before we get into this week's topics, be advised, I have a couple announcements that I'm going to have toward the end of the show. But just be prepared for those. But before we get there, and before we get into these topics, we want to take a couple of moments to thank our fine friends at Things from Another World for sponsoring the Fellowship of the Geeks. And right now, they are running a really cool deal. It goes till December 23rd. And what it is you get $10 off domestic shipping option when you spend $60 or more on in-stock products. If you want more information, go to our website, www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, and click on our sponsors page, and you can see all the information and how you can receive this $10 off. And then you can click on the link, and that'll take you to their website and start shopping. Okay? It's, Christmas is just about here, and so now's the time to shop for that geek in your life, or shop for yourself because you're a geek, and take advantage of this great deal. And once again, we thank Things from Another World for being a sponsor of the Fellowship of the Geeks. Okay, for this week, yes, we're going to be talking about a DC film. Since it's already been kind of brought up, but this is actually an animated film. This year marks the 25th anniversary of the animated film Batman: Mask of the Phantasm, which in some people's eyes is considered the best Batman film ever made. It's definitely up there. I will tell you that. The story was by Alan Burnett, and it was screenplay by him and Paul Dini, Martin Pascal, and Michael Reeves. And you have Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill and Ephraim Zimbalist Jr., who was already obviously part of the cast of the show, coming over to do the movie. Phenomenal film. It really is. The look, the music, which of course was done by the late Shirley Walker, who did the music for the series. Just everything was so great. So for its anniversary, we figure we take some time to relive the film and share our thoughts and celebrate this film. So with that, I'm going to step back and open the floor to whoever would like to go first.
I'll go first.
Whoever would like to go first, Liz.
Whoever would like to go first, that's not me.
Who didn't miss last week.
Right.
I would have to agree, this is one of the better Batman animated films. I've always said, though, if DC wants to pull their act together, they should pay attention to what their animation department's doing. Most of the stuff they put out, they just knock it out of the park. It's usually pretty true to your character. If you don't know a lot about Batman, this would probably be a good one to watch, just because they kind of give you, not go all the way back to his training and stuff, but kind of his first days before the cowl. That's always interesting to watch. But if you were a fan of the animated series, we kind of got into the animated series after Tim Burton's take on Batman. And they said this was pretty heavily influenced from those, where they brought more of the gothic undertones back and not so campy like Adam West was. So I enjoyed it. Storyline was pretty good until the very end. I don't know, are we giving spoilers away?
It's 25 years
It's
old.
25 years old. Okay. Once he found out his girlfriend was the bad guy, and he's like, oh, just get out of here. It's like, what? Are you kidding me? It just kind of broke what Batman was about, you know? How many times is he... I mean, heck, Harvey Dent was his best friend, and he didn't let him slide on anything, you know? Like I said, that's the only part of the storyline that I was kind of with. Anytime you put Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill together, it's going to be greatness. Whether it's animated, video game, whatever, it's going to be awesome. So I really enjoy those two. And anytime I read Batman, it's always in Kevin Conroy's voice. So, which brings me to the games. He voiced a lot of the Batman series. And I forget who it was. I'm wanting to say it was Lionforge who had it and was doing really good with them. And then, like, in the middle, after they give you 3 games, the 4th game goes all the way back to the beginning. Well, they changed the dude's voice. So it's kind of like, you know, kind of a bit of adjustment there, but it's like, how did he lose his voice? But they also flipped the controllers around, which kind of sucked, but... But Kevin Conroy, like I said, he will always be Batman to me. And it's weird because he's never played it live, you know. But yeah, good story, for sure. Like I said, didn't this come out too right after the animated series was canceled or ended, or
No, the show is still going.
was
it
it?
was like after the first season or something.
Yeah.
During the second season, somewhere in there. Also interesting was that it was originally created to go straight to DVD, and they kind of changed their mind at the last minute and gave it kind of a half-hearted theatrical release, and it didn't do particularly well, probably because it was a half-hearted theatrical release.
Right.
So it kind of didn't quite make its money back. And then, of course, they released it on DVD, and people started actually watching it and loved it, and it became a big hit. But, yeah, they didn't plan that maybe as well as they should have. But they were, I mean, I didn't think to look at this. This was not the first animated feature by DC, was it?
I don't think it was.
I don't know if it's first, but if it's not, it's pretty early there. But because it's one of those that led the way.
Led to their studio actually getting a budget. Yeah.
Mm.
Right, and that's kind of what I was expecting to hear, was that they just didn't have that much experience doing this yet. And so, I mean, not to say Warner didn't know anything about animation. Of course they did, but they didn't quite know how feature-length stuff was going to work in this particular case. And so, yeah, I just essentially chalking it up as a learning experience for them. But
I stand corrected. That was the first animated.
it was. Okay. Well, there you go. Yeah, and also you talk about casting. I mean, of course, you're using the guys from the animated series, but you're also adding Dana Delaney and Stacy Keach and Abe Vigoda. Some serious names here.
Mm-hmm.
And also in a bit role, Dick Miller is in this movie. So there you go.
There you go.
Dick Miller is in everything.
Oh God, it wouldn't be a film if Dick Miller was not in it.
Mm-hmm.
He usually shows up in Joe Dante films, I believe.
Yep. He was also in one of Les's favorite movies.
Flash Gordon.
No, I believe you've talked about A Bucket of Blood before.
Yeah.
He was the lead actor in that. He was the starring role.
Dun, dun, dun.
Walter Paisley.
Mask was to me, a top-notch film. I believe that it conveyed the TV series onto the screen without difficulty. There were no glitches as far as continuity goes, because the majority of the situations were new, and you really didn't have to reference something from the TV series to get the impact of the movie itself. Most people only needed to know who Batman was to sit down and watch this movie. So, to us as readers, this was a piece of cake to take in. I thought it was good because you had a slight air of mystery. How many people actually knew who the villain was until the reveal? So, looking at it in terms of mysteries, either books, movies, whatever, this was a fair mystery. A term that I learned concerning the production of movies and the like. This was a fair one because you didn't have a new character introduced in the last, 20 pages of a book or the last 15 minutes of a movie and say, well, that's the guy. Everything was laid out for you. And I was just deeply impressed with this production, and as well as the TV series. So I was all in for this when it came out, and I remember its very, very short run at theaters, but to me it was well worth the time. I turned around and bought the DVD as soon as it was available. So I just take pride in the fact that I got to be part of it.
Did you go see it in the theater?
Yes. Like I said, it was a very short run, but to me, it was well worth it.
It's been a while since I've seen it, but yeah, I enjoyed the heck out of it. Well, for the reasons that I enjoyed the show, it was a solid story. The look was incredible. Yes, it's kind of dark compared to other animated shows at the time, but there was also a Art Deco look to it, and yeah, I agree. The casting was just so spot on. Of course, you got the actors from the show to come over, but the ones that they brought on just for the movie were great too. It's just, you could see why there was people saying, why can't they achieve something like this in a live action film? Because you do get the spirit of the characters in this film. I enjoyed the heck out of it. It's been so long since I need to I need to turn around and watch it. I think I know what I'm doing this weekend.
Well, it is rentable on Amazon and Vudu. I watched it on Vudu. It's one of those, I know I have it, but where do I have it?
Yeah, that's right, folks. She doesn't have a collector problem or anything.
Oh, not at all. Not at all. No
I'm not
12
sh-
steps needed yet.
I'm not sure if I have it on DVD. I'll have to look. I know I've got it on VHS. I know I still have that somewhere.
But do you have a player?
Yeah, well, that's a question. And the answer is no, I don't. So I'm pretty sure I have it on DVD somewhere. But I do know I have it on VHS. Because yes, I bought that as soon as it came out. Because I saw the advertisement for it, and I was already a fan of the show. I'm like, oh, okay, an hour and a half of this, okay, more of this. I'm in.
Sign me up.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's why I can't find it, is I'm looking for a DVD. I need to be looking for a tape.
Could be.
Yeah.
They had DVDs. But, I guess they were probably just coming out if they were.
Well, I'm sure, yeah, it was DVDs at the time, but I mean, it was still, VHS was still pretty.
It was still king.
Yeah. And I do have it. I see it right there. Okay.
Ooh, there you go.
Right next to Batman and Mr. Freeze Sub-Zero, which I probably will turn around and play that one afterwards. Making a Batman evening. Easy for me to say.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, they have some great ones coming up. What was the one I was reading about? Oh, the Gotham by Gaslight.
Mm-hmm.
That one should be really good too. Batman Ninja was kind of it's on that one.
Well, I could have told you that. I hadn't seen it, but it's funny how it's called Batman Ninja, and you look at him, he's dressed as a samurai. I'm like,
whoops.
Okay.
They must have sublet that movie. Smaller company. Oh, and Batman Hush is coming to animated. That one will be really good too.
So you had a problem with the ending?
I had a problem with that the greatest detective, that Joker figured it out before he did. I think that was the problem I had the problem with. Everything else, the fight scene, everything was on point, but I guess it always surprises me when someone can stump him like that, because...
Well, you could also say that he was blinded by his feelings for her.
Yeah.
That he probably knew, but he didn't want to admit it.
Yeah, kind of like a Catwoman situation. To me, I guess that always surprises me. But no, everything else was really good. I mean, like Les said, they laid out a good story, and I honestly didn't know until Joker took her mask off who she was. I really thought it was her dad. And, if Bruce would have known the trouble she was in, instead of them leaving and living all over Europe and everything else, she just should have sold that rock he gave her, and they would have been fine.
So cynical.
I mean, she gave it back to him, so... You think he wanted that back after she jilted him?
Probably not, but he's a cajillionaire, so he can afford to waste a $100,000 ring.
Which he wouldn't have minded her selling and getting out of trouble, and hell, he probably would have bailed her dad out just because it was her,
Oh yeah, no question.
Wouldn't have been that good of a story, but
Right.
That's just the character he is, though.
Right. Well, and I wonder how good of a story it would have been if he had figured out who the bad guy was too early on too. I mean,
True.
part of the part of what makes mystery work is that it takes a while to figure it out. And I mean, even as good a detective as Batman is, there still has to be some process there. I mean, he can't just walk in. He can't be Sherlock Holmes. He can't walk in, look around for 10 seconds, figure out the problem, and walk away. That's a different deal.
That's true.
And that's one of the reasons that Sherlock Holmes doesn't really make good movies. Unless they're, I mean, even when they're kind of based on the stories, if it's too easy, there have to be weird complications, because I mean, even in the stories, they did stump Holmes quite a bit for short periods of time, of course. But I mean, for him to just walk in and do the perfect detective thing, it's not much of a movie.
True.
It's certainly not much of a mystery.
The
Right. He's not. So I mean, he
Joker
can be really good
figured
without
it
being.
out.
If nothing else, that's a fun little hint as to how well the Joker and Batman kind of sync together. I mean, you could see him kind of borrowing Batman's thought processes for a little bit there.
One seemed to me, like we were talking about the Joker earlier, to me this is the best version of Joker. He had the ha-ha moments and he was funny, like when he hit her with his meat, but at other times he was very violent and would, just erupt over nothing and then be all, oh, ha, 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 I'm just kidding kind of thing. To me, that's what I've always seen the Joker as. Someone who's, crazy, of course, and ha-ha, but can be very deadly because he's so freaking smart, which makes him dangerous. Because the ha-ha-ha, he doesn't care who dies or if he dies or takes the whole planet with him.
Yeah, I mean, it's a much better portrayal of crazy than most of the rest of the portrayals of Joker. Mm-hmm. I agree. I mean, partly because to do that justice is hard to do live action in a way.
True.
Not without. I mean, ultimately it's a writing thing, really. But I think to do some of the stuff, I mean, to make Joker as out there as he needs to be is difficult for a person to do. I think it would just be extremely difficult to portray.
Mark Hamill does it pretty well.
Right, but it's animated. It's not
true.
Mark Hamill standing there doing that. It would be interesting to watch if it was, but
yeah.
I mean, he can do things with his voice that he can pour all the crazy he wants into it, and he doesn't have to then back that up physically, which makes it easier to pour the crazy in, and also you can do more things with the animation to help to back it up also.
Yeah. Well, and they did. They made him more animated too. Like, like you said, you couldn't get that with a person. But he really did bring that character to life.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. To the same extent that Conroy brought Batman to life. I mean, it's just it strikes me as odd that they don't seem to have learned from that. I mean, Warner Brothers doesn't seem to have figured out what it is about Conroy's performance that works so well. I mean, it's no knock on Kevin Conroy. I think he's phenomenal, but I don't think it would be that hard to kind of pick apart his performances and figure out what makes it work. I mean, honestly, the split between, and we actually talked about this last week with Superman, the split between Bruce Wayne and Batman, there's got to be a noticeable distinction.
Yeah. Actually, they talked about that. And he said originally he was going to do like a different voice, like a Playboy kind of voice for Bruce, and a different one for Batman. But by the time they got all of the, it's so dark and kind of gothic undertones, it just didn't work. So he wound up doing the one voice for both.
But my deal is it's not the same voice. There are still differences.
Yeah.
If you're not looking at the screen, you can tell if he's Batman or if he's Bruce Wayne. You can tell the difference just by sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Admittedly, it's not a huge, massive difference, but it's enough to be obvious, and I think that's important. That's a big deal, and they didn't really do that ever again.
Yeah. See, with Batman, he's more of the gruff, confident, speaks boldly. With Bruce, it's more of the ha-ha, fake guy. I'm going to be kicking your ass after sun goes down kind of guy, But yeah, I can see that.
If we look at the characters in this movie, I think that DC is presenting some really, really good characterizations of the fictionals in this.
Mm-hmm.
The corrupt city official, Councilman Arthur Reeves, I thought was a stroke for the plus. You got to get some of the underworld in this one a little more than has been shown in the movies or much in the TV series. The TV series had who's the big kingpin, Thomas?
Rupert Thorne.
Rupert Thorne, yes. And this got to branch out a little more because you had Arthur Reeves and you had Salvatore Balestra, the crime boss. So bringing new characters in, I thought was a great stroke for them. It just gave a little more depth to both Batman and Gotham City. Thomas talked about Gotham being that, what did you call it, Thomas?
Kind of Art Deco with the Gothic. Something along those lines, yeah.
Yeah, and I agree with you because the whole series was that way. If you looked, the cars were not new. The police had dirigibles available for spotting instead of helicopters. So,
I think it was
to me, they were able to give more life, more, like I said, depth for both the characters and Gotham by bringing in new villains and situations. Yes, it was a little darker, but the tone of the original TV series was a little dark, not to the point
like the films.
Right. But it was I was able to feel that there was more to me, to Gotham, than I had witnessed in either movies or even in the TV series.
Yeah, when we talked about the animated series way back when, I think we even talked about Gotham kind of as its own character in that show, and that totally carried over to this. I mean, obviously it was going on all at the same time, so part of that style drew some from Burton's, but also kind of went in a different direction.
Yeah.
With the kind of like I said, the Art Deco style. Kind of, I don't know, it's a kind of a weird marriage between like the 20s and the 50s. Because like all the cars look like they're from the 20s, but most of the buildings look more like they were designed in the 50s.
This was supposed to be set in the 40s, which is probably the only time they've actually assigned a year to Batman.
Yeah, it's dangerous to do that.
It is.
That's how you avoid continuity issues, is you don't talk about dates.
Yep. For how old they are.
Mm-hmm.
Liz had a little bit of problem with the film. Did y'all have any problems? Was there anything you go, well, I wish they had not done that?
Not that I recall. It has been a little while since I've seen it too. So
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember thinking it was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Probably because, if I remember correctly, I hadn't really paid that much attention to the series when I saw this.
Mm-hmm.
So this was in a way kind of my intro. I mean, I probably had seen bits and pieces of one or two episodes, but this was probably my introduction to the animated series as well. So I thought it was really cool. I liked a lot of the, like I said, the stylistic stuff. That all struck me as really impressive.
Yeah.
I liked the way they handled it.
Well, I definitely like the story because they were able to step out of the TV box. Sometimes you have to watch out because of your audience that you're targeting. And with this, you could tell they had a little bit more free roam. Like when he kicked the door down to make sure that guy stayed down. They probably would have left that off TV.
Maybe.
Could be. Could
And
be.
Joker slapping her with the meat, that would have definitely been left off TV.
But it's such a Joker thing to do.
It is.
Right.
Because there was like a cleaver right beside it. And see, and that's what I was saying. He can be deadly, but sometimes he goes for that joke, Which is what I love about him. He's unpredictable, He could kill you if he wanted to, but sometimes he just wants to mess with you.
Right, but he doesn't always want to.
Yep. And I think Joker thought, especially when he figured out that it was the girl, that this was the final time that he could break Batman. I can finally make him crazy. The world thinks he's crazy right now, and he's killing people. This may be my final breaking moment for him, like he's always wanted to do.
Yeah, be careful how much time you try to spend inside Joker's head.
Yeah. Although I'm really glad that DC's given him some good stories here lately. He's kind of one of those that he's a complicated character, so some nicer grown-up stories are kind of nice.
Alrighty. Any final thoughts before we decide to wrap this up and take a quick break?
Check it out if you can track it down.
Yeah.
Sounds like it's not that hard to track down, really.
No. And I'm surprised DC doesn't have this on their channel.
I was about to say, wouldn't it be on their DC universe, but they may be still trying to get stuff on there. So.
And the one that I watched on Vudu, of course, it's the copy of whatever's on the disc, it was kind of glitchy at points.
Dope.
And the only thing that I really find annoying sometimes is when the music's so loud and the audio is so soft. So it makes for a really loud watching experience. But 25 years ago, they've corrected that. But other than that, great movie. Like I said, this is definitely a Batman essential.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Any final thoughts from you, Mr. Batman fan?
Not really. I want to iterate what Mike said. If you can track it, sit down and spend the, 86 minutes
Sounds about right.
to watch it, because it's got everything. It's got the action, it's got the romance, it's got everything.
Jokes.
Slapping people with meat.
There you go.
Like I said, that was
What the hell more could you want, people? Come on.
There's just something wrong with that statement somehow.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
And on that unfortunate note, we are taking a quick break and be back with our weekly picks. And we're back, and it's time for our weekly picks, and leading off is Liz.
Well, my first one I'm very excited about. It's become a Christmas tradition, and it's Klaus and the Crying Snowman. Grant Morrison is always one of those writers I've had a love-hate. You either love his work or you hate his work, and this I absolutely love. You put him together with Dan Mora, and magic just happens. It's still heavily Grant Morrison influenced, which also makes it kind of interesting. But it sounds like this one, there's something invading the people, and whether you're naughty or nice this time, it's going after everyone. So he's got to stop this guy or thing or whatever they've spun it into this time. Like I said, every one they've put out so far, I think he started this in 2015, and that year he put out 2 stories. So this is actually the 4th story for Klaus that he's put out, and they've all just been amazing. So pick this one up. You definitely won't be disappointed.
Very cool.
Yep.
Should be neat. He's fighting Frosty.
And
the covers are just flipping amazing.
It wouldn't be Christmas time if we didn't have Klaus around here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty, Mike, you're next.
I'm next, and my first pick is a Valiant title, and I'm picking Livewire, #1. Livewire's got her own ongoing series now. Isn't that cool?
Very much so.
Yeah. If you're not familiar with Livewire, she's the one who controls machines. And the premise at this point is that due to certain, she has kind of taken like the budding new powered folks in the world kind of under her wing. She's decided that she needs to be their defender, and she kind of honked off the U.S. government by basically shutting down the entire power grid for the country at one point. So she's kind of on their shit list, and so she's kind of off on her own, trying to continue to protect the Psiots and effectively stay out of prison. So I'm looking forward to this. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I like Livewire.
Yeah, I've been waiting for this one ever since they announced it. And then after reading Harbinger Wars 2 and the events that are leading up to this series, I was going, okay, this is going to be very interesting to see where we go from here. Between this and some of the titles that they have has announced for early next year, the next 12 months are going to be very, very interesting. I think there's going to be some intriguing, really cool material coming out from Valiant. Not to say that has not been happening.
Oh, it has.
It has been happening, but just what I have seen in regards to the Eternal Warrior and some of the other stuff that's coming out the next few months, I'm very, very stoked of what's coming out, and this is Livewire is just the start of it.
Yep.
Awesome
Agreed.
choice. That was actually that was on my list as well. So, bravo, Mikey.
Woo.
I am next, and for my first pick, I'm going with the Image title, and it's Hardcore #1, written by Andy Diggle, with art by Alessandro Vitti and Adriano Lucas. And the premise is Hardcore refers to a program where apparently people have the abilities to take possession of other people. And apparently with this, they can access targets all over the world if need be, and that kind of thing. But this series features is a story of a man named Drake who finds out that he can't leave the body that he's currently possessing, and apparently he has to get out of that body in 72 hours, but he's got to figure out what the hell's going on. So it's a very cool premise. I love Andy Diggle's work. If that name sounds familiar to you, I mean, he's written a lot of really cool material, but his namesake is in the Arrow TV show. So that's probably why you might heard of it, because he did a great run on Green Arrow. So it was a kind of homage to him. But this sounds like a really cool book. It sounds like another winner for Image.
They're pretty good at that.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
Alrighty, Les.
My first choice is by Matthew Spradlin and illustrated by David Hutchison, from Antarctic Press's Heroes at Large. I've been looking forward to this one because I've seen ads for it for 3 or 4 months now. And it's concerning superheroes that were sponsored by the government, but they were frozen in the 1940s. They are now thawed out, but the problem is they have no superpowers, and they don't have any bat gadgets or, the little toys. And there is no awareness in the group to force them forward. So they are considered politically incorrect. And I'm looking forward to this because it's not noted as a comedy, but it's gotta be something amusing to step forward and do something like this. But it is a mature audience book, so with a grain of salt. But to me, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Definitely sounds interesting.
Yep. Yeah, this one sounds really cool to check out. Liz.
All right. For my second pick, I'm going with Lady Death, Hell Raiders. Let's see. The Trinity happens, and it's going to level the Earth. And so Rada gets a team together, and they've got to go down into hell and convince Lady Death, who chooses to live in hell instead of up on Earth, that she needs to help them save the Earth. So, should be a pretty interesting story. Just the descent into hell to get to even talk to her should be a pretty interesting story. Plus, I'm kind of curious in her if she's going to tell them, yeah, okay, I'll help you guys with the planet that I totally hate, or if she's going to tell them to go to hell.
Wouldn't it be more appropriate to say go to Earth?
Should
True.
be a short trip.
True. You already here. So yeah,
Go
this
to
was
Earth.
good. I think originally this one was kickstarted, so
Cool.
should be a pretty good little story.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty. Mikey.
Okie dokie. I've got an image book next, and I'm picking Outpost Zero. This is issue 5, and it's the start of a new arc. So it's a great jumping on point. If you have not seen this, I can't remember if I talked about this on the show or not. This is set on a distant planet where people are trying to colonize. This distant planet, though, is basically just a frozen rock, and so they've set up a station where, a colony, and the problem is that most of the year it's completely covered over with ice. So the challenge for the outpost is to try to essentially get themselves out from under the ice, so that the ice doesn't crush the entire town. And this story is actually mostly based around kind of a specific group of teenagers who are like on the verge of like graduating and getting like real jobs, trying to help do all the stuff that has to be done. And there's some really cool character dynamics there, and it's just been a really neat story. The first arc was really good, and I'm looking forward to the second one now.
Cool.
That does sound cool.
Alrighty. I am next, and for my second pick, I turn to DC Comics, and it's the first issue of a 12-issue series called Freedom Fighters, written by Robert Venditti with art by Eddie Barrows. This is if you're familiar with previous runs of Freedom Fighters, it's a kind of a new telling of the story where Nazis had won the World War II and they had actually invaded and conquered America. And they had wiped out all the metahumans that were around, including the group that called themselves the Freedom Fighters, and that was Doll Man, Human Bomb, and Phantom Lady, and all those. And now it's sometime later, and a new group of heroes are merging to fight back the Nazi party. And this is their story, and who knows, they may get a help from a certain person who has been missing for a while. Someone named Sam or something like that. So, spoiler, I have read this. I've already read the PDF, advanced PDF. I loved the hell out of this. So, definitely check this book out. If you're old school, if you read the old school stuff, it honors that, but it's a nice new take, and it's Robert Venditti. He's done written a lot of stuff for Valiant. He just did runs on Green Lantern, so he knows his stuff. He knows his stuff. It's a good read. It's definitely a good read. So check it out.
Yeah, I'm ready for this one.
Sounds like fun.
Alrighty, Les.
My second pick comes from NBM, and what it is Rick Geary telling the story of the Black Dahlia. The Black Dahlia is a murder that was committed back in the early 40s. Is yet to be solved. I want to see what his version is on this, if he goes by the police reports to show his story, or does he go a little fiction like has been done before? And I'm just interested to see which direction this will take, because obviously it's an unsolved mystery, but it's going to be such a good one.
Yeah, this is like a legend in the kind of the true crime circles.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
This is one of those that has just kind of never gone away. It's always been, somebody's always been writing or doing something about it, and so it's kind of cool in that regard.
Definitely sounds interesting. And our honorable mention this week is...
Our honorable mention this week, it's me. No, I've got a couple of things from Dark Horse here that I think kind of go together really well. They are both like hardcover archive type books. The first one is the EC Archives, The Vault of Horror, the Volume 5 hardcover. This picks up issues 36 through 40 of Vault of Horror, and it has been digitally recolored also. So with Marie Severin's original palette in mind. So there's some cool stuff from kind of early-ish days of horror comics back when that was kind of a thing, the first time around before it kind of got shut down. But so some cool historical stuff there. The other one is an archive. It's Eerie, Volume 25, and there's almost 300 pages of some really cool old black and white comics here. Horror stuff again, obviously. Tons and tons of stuff. Should be a lot of fun.
Nice. And I do like the touch that the digital recoloring is honoring the original work. That's a very nice touch, and for instead of kind of doing their own thing or whatever.
Right. They didn't try to get too creative with it. I mean, I'm sure they're using some modern techniques here, but it still should look really nice.
Right. Very nice. Any special mentions or shout outs this week before I get to my announcements?
I don't have anything.
Step on up.
Liz, you have anything?
Nope.
Okay. Alrighty, 2 announcements. This is our next to last episode for the year. This one drops on Sunday the 16th, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. We'll have one more episode, which will drop the 23rd, and the following week we'll be taking that week off, just kind of to enjoy the holiday season and recharge our batteries, and then we'll be back at it starting the 1st of 2019, so be aware of that. And the second announcement is something that Les and I had done in the early days of the fellowship. We decided to bring back and see how that works. And this is going to do those who are listening that are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Perk up. Here's your chance to talk to us face to face. Because starting in January, we'll be doing meetup sessions on the second Saturday of every month. and we'll be doing notifications on Facebook, and I'll try to figure out how we're going to do it for Twitter as well. But every second Saturday of the month at 7 p.m., we're going to be meeting at a store called Galaxy Call Dallas. That's located in Garland. That's 1238 Beltline Road, Suite 368. Again, that's in Garland, Texas, 75040. So our first session will be January 12th. Feel free to come in, meet us. I don't know if we'll all be there. Certainly Les and I will be there. We'll be happy to talk to y'all. And we'll talk about anything that's going on geek-related. Doesn't necessarily have to be comics. It could be whatever. Mainly, we would love to hear what y'all want to talk about. And definitely want feedback from you regarding the show. And, we're still looking for questions for a Q&A episode. If y'all not want to contact us through social media, wanted to talk to us face to face, we would definitely be happy to take down your questions for that. So we'll keep promoting that, and if you're following us on Facebook and on Twitter, we'll be doing reminders of these, and we hope to see you there. Should be fun.
It should.
All right, with that, we will get on to our regular shout-outs. First off, want to thank Manny the Martyr for supplying us with the music for our podcast. You definitely should check out their music. We'll have a link in the show notes. They've got a couple of CDs out, some really cool music, so please check it out. Thank you, guys. Second of all, I want to thank the fine folks that make up the Podern family on Twitter for spreading the word of the Fellowship. I highly suggest you go check them out. If you're looking for any kind of show, you're just looking to see what's out there, we highly recommend you do that. Just go to Twitter and do a search, hashtag Podern Family, that's all one word, and just scroll to your heart's content. And if you see something that catches your eye, please, by all means, download that episode, and hopefully you found another show that catches your interest. Thank you guys for your support. And finally, you, dear listener, thank you for downloading and listening to today's episode. We do appreciate your support as well. And as I said earlier, we value your feedback. We would love to hear from you. There are several ways you can contact us. You can send us a message, email at thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, or you can go to the website and go to the About Us page, and there's a form that you can fill out there. You can follow us on social media, especially if you're interested in coming to our Geek Hangouts. On Facebook, we are The Fellowship of the Geeks, and on Twitter, we're at Fellowship Geeks. And if you like to follow our personal Twitter accounts, by all means, Mike can be found at Mikey Geek. Liz can be found at Newman_L. And I can be found at TomTCGeek. And from wherever you download our episodes, whether it's through iTunes, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spotify, or YouTube, if you could, please rate our show. And if you have a couple of moments to spare, a review would be awesome as well. Any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening once again, gang. It's very much appreciated. Until next time, read more comics and support your local stores.
We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook at The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,